are we going to live the rest of our life saying what if, or are we going to do this? And we did it.
Welcome back to the Building Nebraska podcast. It's a podcast for both dreamers and doers as we work to inspire you by showcasing entrepreneurs all throughout the Cornhusker State. We're doing just that today. We are in Alliance, Nebraska at Golden Hour Barbecue. Very excited to be visiting with both Fletcher and Flor about the intricacies of opening a barbecue location in Alliance, Nebraska, small town USA. It's a bit of a bold step. I'll just proclaim that from the start. But tell me, what all do you guys do here in Alliance?
Well, thank you very much for having us. So we came up here to cook Texas barbecue, and that's what we've done since March. We moved up here in September, kind of restarted our lives, sold everything for this dream. I've been working towards it for 6 years at this point, barbecue-wise, and Flores, ran her own little businesses as well as been a school teacher in that process. So we're out here doing it the Texas way, cooking with post oak, introducing people to really great brisket and homemade sausages, the whole thing, really.
I think on the folks watching the video version can see the menu behind us, but walk me through what all you all sell, when you're open, and in addition to that, when are you open?
Sure. So we're open Friday, Saturday from 5 to 8, and then Sunday, Monday from 11 to 3. And I should get closer. I'm so sorry. And then we have several items on our menu. We have our meats, which are pulled pork, turkey, brisket, ribs, sausage, house mild, and a jalapeno cheese sausage. And then along with our sides next to it, but everything is homemade.
Mm-hmm. We make it all here in-house, aside from the Nilla wafers on the banana pudding. We only offer that one dessert. We will expand as we grow our team and kind of nail down our processes, but we like to keep things simple and do them really well.
What's your favorite thing that you make on the menu for each of you?
Yes, I love our brisket and mac and cheese. I think that's so delicious because something about the savoriness of the brisket meat and then just a nice layer of fat with a scoop of mac is just so good for me. But also I do like a turkey sandwich with coleslaw. Mm-hmm. That's also great too.
I think I enjoy eating one of our sausages more than anything once in a while, just to check our quality. But turkey is the most frequented meat by, I feel like, barbecue owners because it's so light with the smoke, so light with the pepper. When you're around it all the time, barbecue's not what you crave. You're kind of inundated by it, being out by the pits all the time and just tasting, for quality's sake. Turkey is the lightest and most accessible option for sure.
Right now we are recording today's episode ahead of Thanksgiving, and I saw you all are working out there to let people know that you will smoke turkey for them. They don't have to worry about that. You, of course, have the division of the business that's here, storefront, as the hours you mentioned, Flor, but the other components. Do you do catering? You've got the ordering of turkey. What else is involved?
Yeah, so aside from our catering, we also have some retail products at the Butte Bakery Alliance, and there we sell our jalapeno cheese sausage, mild sausage, or specialty sausage in a 4-pack. And what's great about the sausage is that it is fully cooked. So you can have it for dinner with a pasta or with your spaghetti, but you can also have it for a snack if you just slice the sausage cold with cheese, or if you want to make a charcuterie board. They're a great addition to boards like that. So you can find us there along with our pickled items like our dill pickles, pickled red onions, we call our pinks, that go great on salads. So we have options out there that aren't not just meats, but also our meats can be used in different ways. You don't just have to have the meat itself.
Yeah, at our cutting block, we encourage people to buy our meats in bulk and get creative at home. We're not just serving barbecue plates, but pulled pork goes great in a quesadilla or in a soup. There's a lot of stuff you can do with our food. And like Flor mentioned, we do catering, but we also have a big banquet hall on the property that we host, weddings, celebrations of life, you name it, gender reveals, whatever is happening in the town, we're happy to host. So we provide catering for that, as well as a really beautiful space.
So the two of you met, if memory serves me right, to the University of Nebraska Kearney, have a unique journey to where you're at today. But when you met, was this always the goal, open a barbecue location?
No, I think that when we met, our goals were a little bit different. All of our goals in life have been different, but we do think that all of our goals have contributed to our personal growth and our ability to have a business here. Although for myself as a teacher, teachers work so hard. They work outside of their contract hours all of the time, and they care so much for their students and about what they do. So as a teacher, I remember putting in a lot of work into everything, and I still was being paid the same as my colleagues. And at that time, I thought, what if I worked for myself and put in half as much of effort that I'm putting in now? What kind of reward would I get from that? Because I had a really strong ethic, and I knew it could translate into other industries too. So those were the stepping stones that brought me to where I am now. Although hasn't been specific to this industry, everything that I've learned and experienced has contributed to the person I am now and what I'm doing now. And Fletcher's is more specific. Well, once we moved to Houston, was more specific towards food.
Mm-hmm. I've always been interested in food. Growing up in Texas, I like to believe that Texas has a fairly diverse cuisine, specifically with the Latino cultures down there. So there was just good food, and I was lucky enough to be in a family that appreciated good food, whether it was my dad or mom cooking at home and myself peeling garlic or deveining shrimp. I was involved in those processes in elementary school and was cooking for my family in middle school, full meals, and always had an interest in cooking. I had an All About Me book when I was in 4th grade, and the question of what do you want to be when you grow up, I said chef. And that kind of left me for a long time. I always cooked, but never considered it as a career until I graduated from UNK and got a great degree, but just really didn't like sitting at a desk. I didn't like pretending to work. That's not what I'm about. I like being physical. I've been an athlete my whole life, so working in a restaurant was fun. It was active. It was stressful at times, but I've always liked to think I perform well under that stress. So I think, both of our experiences have led us to this point, but it was never the grand plan. Until Houston, and when we moved to Houston, it was the intent that Flor would get her start professionally in teaching. They had some pretty rough school districts that needed great teachers, and Flor was one of those. That's where she got her start. And I was destined to work for the best people I could down there, learn from them, and that's exactly what I did. I spent my first year working for Truth Barbecue, which is number 3 on the Texas Monthly's top 50 Texas barbecues in the state of Texas. That's kind of where I got my knowledge. I didn't know how to trim a brisket when I started there, and I quickly learned because I was trimming briskets for 10 hours a day in a walk-in cooler, which led to opportunities to learn on the pits, which led to managing guys in that pit room and kind of making a name for myself in the Houston food community and moving on to other barbecues from there, opening a restaurant while I was in Houston as well. For not my own restaurant, but a couple that I worked for.
Mm-hmm. Ultimately, though, you get led you grew up here in Alliance, Flor. Fletcher, obviously, this is kind of a new community for you, having some in-laws, I'm sure, in town. But what brought you back to Alliance and gave you the inspiration to start this?
What brought us back, I think we both love Nebraska. As soon as I came up here for my college visit, I knew it just felt like home in a different sense. Very different from where I grew up, but it was always going to be a part of me. I don't know when we were in Houston and if we were set on coming back to Nebraska, but it was really this building that we're in right now that sold us, and this downtown that seemingly, if you talk to people in this town, they talk about how it was a much more lively place in the 80s and 70s, and a lot of complaints, and we just saw the potential here. Maybe it was fresh eyes, but we just love this downtown and see so much more for it. So that it was this building, the history of this building, frankly, the cost of starting a business in this town is far less than you would run into in a major market or a city. So
Absolutely. At one point in Houston, we wanted to buy an old barn someday in the future. It was always a really long-term goal for us. So we were always putting in those conversations with each other and just out in the world, just one day we want to have our own little barn that we fix up and we can have parties there and do catering there. And so when we saw this space during the Community Heritage Days, which is where there's a really big carnival right outside the doors, and it's so much fun and so lively, and I grew up going to that, and I had a lot of fun going to it. And that's around that time. Oh no, it wasn't then. Around that time was when Fletcher came to see the building for himself, because we really sat on it for a couple of months because we just didn't know. It was really, we were so cozy in Houston. We had a home and friends.
Absolutely.
Our careers going.
Sorry.
No, it's okay.
It was do or die.
Yeah.
Are we going to live the rest of our life saying what if, or are we going to do this? And we did it. We got all the way up. It was kind of sketchy how it happened. We got all the way up until maybe 5 days before closing, before we realized it was wishful thinking to think that we could have smokers on the property. We just didn't have a location. And the neighbors, y'all saw our pits a little bit earlier. That property is not this building's property, and they weren't interested initially in renting it out. And our realtor went back to those property owners and kind of sold our case to them, and they're believers, and some of our best friends and customers that we have now are next door neighbors, and we wouldn't be here without them allowing us to rent that little piece of property.
Just 5 days before the close?
Yeah, we wouldn't be here without them, period.
We told all of our Houston friends, hey guys, I know we said we were moving, but we're not, so we had a party to celebrate us staying.
Oh my gosh.
A day later, we're like, just kidding, we are going.
Never mind.
Yeah, we were happy, ecstatic to come up here, but happy with our lives either way. But definitely wanted this opportunity and saw that this building was what we wanted. It really was this building in downtown here.
Yep. And when we couldn't find a spot for the pits, we told our realtor we're going to have to step out from this. We're not going to be able to do it. And we were bummed out. We were bummed out, although we were okay with still living in Houston. That wasn't that big of a deal. But then it happened, and we packed everything up and left.
Sold our house to our next door neighbors in Houston for their parents to live in, so that was made easy, thankfully. But
It seemed like everything was kind of meant to be.
absolutely.
Well, that's neat. Hearing your story of what you've done thus far, hopefully big things are ahead. I want to get into the reality, though, quickly about running a business. In your case, running a restaurant. From what I've been told, margins are always tight. Overhead costs are always increasing, especially in 2024, going into a new year here. Has to be some difficult conversations along the way of trying to make this work. And by the way, as you pointed out, you're not operating in a town of 100,000 plus people. Alliance, Nebraska. Talk about some of those challenges along the way and how perhaps you work to overcome them.
I think that a lot of the challenges do fall onto Fletcher. Fletcher has a lot of experience in the industry, so he's familiar with how pricing and how things should be. And also, Fletcher has to work in the elements as well. Since the pit room is outside, there's a bit of a physical strain that has to do with it.
Yeah. I mean, I've worked overtime in many pit rooms at 120 degrees. You don't get to leave them, but it's a different animal, owning and operating a spot. All the decisions go through you. And as far as overhead goes, overhead is a huge expense with restaurants. the way we've combat that, with opening is we're physically working. Flor and I don't rest. We get one day off a week to chill out, and then we're back prepping Wednesday and Thursday for our Friday through Monday service. So, maybe a part of our success is our involvement in the business. I say success, we've been open for 7 months, but it does feel that way so far. With the response of the community, it's a lot easier to know that people are going to show up, and I'm thankful we haven't had too many of those incredibly stressful scenarios where you're hemorrhaging money. We're not there yet. It happens for every business. We have a really old building that has major repairs that need done. So that's really what we're working towards. We're working towards reinvesting in this building and downtown Alliance.
7 months in so far, what was the initial and ongoing reaction from the community?
Oh, wow. So Halloween of last year, we were already in this building and we were able to operate through a temporary operator's permit. And through that, we handed out sausage samples during trick or treat.
Trick-or-treaters.
I love
Yes.
that, trick-or-treating. No
Yes,
candy
it
here.
was
We
for
got
the grown-ups.
sausage, though.
Yeah, exactly. So we handed out samples of the sausages, and everyone's reaction was great. And then they kept on asking, the community kept on asking when we were going to be open. It was just Fletcher and I doing a lot of the work here, a lot of painting. I mean, it wasn't all of it, too.
Buying
We
and
can't.
assembling equipment.
Yeah.
What reality is without Flor's family being here,
Yeah.
we couldn't have made the moves we did as quickly as we did. Flor's dad does trucking and contracting, so we had guys to replace tile in our kitchen. We have just guys who know how to get stuff done. And so that's an invaluable resource as a small business owner.
Yeah, absolutely. When we don't know how to get a lot of stuff
We're not
done.
handymen.
We're
We
not.
just cook good food.
I often see on some of your social media a sign that says sold out. Is that a pretty common occurrence?
Not all the time. When it happens, we're super grateful
Yeah.
for it because we have no food left over. It's really easy, thanks, depending on your point of sale system, to track numbers and track data. And so we use that data to determine how much we're going to cook for the next day's service. And some days, more people come than others. And so that's when we do sell out. But the point of our service is to have enough food for everyone to make it through our service hours. But since everything is handmade, we can't guarantee
Yeah.
that we're going to have everything.
Yeah.
Not to mention, the meats take forever to cook. So
There's no just throwing
No.
another brisket on.
I gotta throw another
It's
one
a
on.
14, 16-hour cook. So what we prepare is what we expect to sell. Sometimes it doesn't work out. That meat either goes into our beans, we donated it to the community table here, or take it to the, what do they call it, Highland Park. We've gone up there before.
to the nursing
Yeah,
home,
nursing
our
home.
police department, our
Yeah.
fire department. We do treat those in our community too, because we're not going to eat all of that barbecue, but we never intend to have food left over. We really do want to try to sell it all because there's a lot of hours that go into the cook.
Oh, yeah. And we don't reheat stuff. We're not out here trying to sell people barbecue that isn't great. That's our standard, is great barbecue. So we are constantly looking at numbers, and so that sellout thing happens when we look at, say, on Saturdays, we look at the previous month, we do X amount of numbers. Well, we prepare that number, and everybody and their grandpa shows up that day. And we love that. Those are exciting days here. It's good energy. The place fills up, but we might run out of food an hour and a half before we close. And we try not to, so as long as we have our open sign and you're driving by, we have some food, we will feed you. Even our options that aren't sold out are still meant to be as delicious as the other ones.
Yeah, absolutely. And thankfully, we have that big old banquet hall space, so large people can come in and gather. Our restaurant space here is pretty small, but with the additional space with the banquet hall, we're able to seat so many people. So it's really, really good energy to see so many families in here having barbecue, family style, similar to what you'd see in Texas.
Yeah.
It's our little piece of Texas up here.
Couple rapid fire questions. I think you made a top 10 list. What was that, Fletcher?
Yes. So like I mentioned earlier, Texas Monthly does a top 50 in Texas every 4 years. They release a top 50. They rank number 1 through 10. The rest is just listed. Well, the editor for Texas Monthly got approval to do that top 50 list throughout the whole country. So he visited 48 states, 149 barbecues, and picked a top 50, and within that top 50, a top 10. And we landed at number 10, which was a incredible honor and surprise. We were thrilled to just be mentioned, but to see our name on, a ranked list was really cool. Really cool.
It was amazing. We were not expecting it. We knew that there was some sort of list that was going to be coming out at some point, but we didn't expect to be on it. We thought maybe just a little mention. We drove through Nebraska would have been nice, but I think our internet was down in the building this day, so someone was in here fixing it, and it was on one of our days off, and we were like, oh my gosh, the list is out. Let's take a look at it. And then we saw our name, and knees got weak. We're not expecting it whatsoever, and we're so thankful.
There's so many great barbecues on that list that have been open for 10 years, 15 years, spreading the Texas gospel. That's our biggest export as Texans is barbecue, in my opinion. And to be on that list, but high up on that list, was very special. It means we're doing the right thing. Yeah. We're representing well.
Yeah.
Our audience for this podcast, a lot of those in rural Nebraska, rural other areas of states, and those interested in entrepreneurship, whether they already have a business or interested in starting one largely. What's your advice to those people listening?
Find a passion. Find what excites you, whether it's a hobby or coloring, whatever it is. Find out what you enjoy and then set up the steps to get better at that thing. Surround yourself with people who know what they're doing in that industry. Go work, it's hard knocks, but that's the best way, in my opinion, to learn, is go be a cook, go be a dishwasher. That's where a lot of people start in this industry, So yeah, that's my advice, is care about what you're doing. Bottom line, there's a lot of people who are either forced or kind of led into certain career paths, and I don't agree. We only get one life, so do the thing that you like.
Mm-hmm. Do what makes you happy, and nothing's immediate. Everything in life is just all pebbles to the big old storm of what you can do. And nothing's immediate. Everything is a learning experience, even the bad days, and always be open to learning and growing and improving upon yourself as an individual and for your business, and never stop learning is a big one for me.
Well, Flor, Fletcher, thank you both very much for sitting down with us here on the Building Nebraska podcast. Congratulations on the success so far, 7 months in. Hopefully, many more and great days ahead. I want to encourage people listening, too, as they're coming through Alliance. Bookmark this, you guys' website. Make sure they stop by on one of those days you're open.
Please do. Absolutely. Thank you so much, Bryce. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you, Bryce. And if you're coming through Alliance, there's other great spots to visit too, other than our restaurant in this little area. A lot of the spots are walkable too, like the Carnegie Art Center. That's a free art center where you can go and look at art from artists from local and afar. And there's also the Sandhills Museum, our beautiful Central Park. So gorgeous with lots of trees.
Yeah, Alliance is very walkable.
It's
spend a few hours walking around and you'll see a lot of what we have here.
Make a day out of it. Flor Fletcher, thanks again for joining us. This is the Building Nebraska podcast. As a reminder, it is proudly sponsored by the Angler Agribusiness Entrepreneurship Program, which is located at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you next time.